I'm hopping on a YouTube live, just so you know.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. Hey there, everybody. It is Coach Mark. Happy freaking Sunday. I've just decided with these YouTube lives, I'm going to stop trying to treat it like a live where people show up and interact with me, since y'all rarely have questions. And I'm not saying that as a negative, just also I'm not really good at setting these things up. So instead, what I'm going to be doing today is just diving right in and going over what I'll be going over. I am pulling up the chat on my phone, just in the off chance someone does show up and has questions for me. That way I can see it. But what are we talking about today? Well, Conjugate Kaiju 3. You know, I recently broke 2,200 followers on Instagram, and I asked you all, hey, which program do you want to see next? The choices were Blue Chip Base Builder, which was just a strongman 3 times a week, full body program, really good program, tremendous program, the best program, believe me, everyone knows, everyone agrees. Silly joke there. But so there's Blue Chip Base Builder, there was West Side for Chubby Bastards 3, and Conjugate Kaiju 3, and what do you know, Conjugate Kaiju 3 won. Although it was actually a pretty close poll overall, so it's kind of exciting to see. But I guess y'all really like strongman meets hypertrophy training, so you know, strongman, bodybuilding, strong building, body man, whatever you want to call it. So let's go ahead and dive in. And what I'm going to be doing is just kind of a live line out of what the program is going to look like. This isn't the actual final definitive version of it, obviously. Always subject to change. But it's going to be a 4-day split because why wouldn't it be? That just makes the most sense, right? And something I think I'm going to do that's a little bit different is I want to do it as sort of a modified bro split. So we'll go pull, push, legs, and upper. So, you know, it's not quite a true bro split, but it is adjacent, right? And then let me get a little table here. 4 days of training. Each day we'll have maybe 5 or 6 exercises. Cool. All right. Just so I have this in front of us. Now, what we're going to do here is, now that I've got my split lined up, you know, recognizing this is a hypertrophy program, we want to think which days make the most sense to be our max effort or intensive days, right? Because it's still going to be conjugate in nature. We're not going to be trying to push maxes on everything all at once. I honestly don't think that's a good way to train. And, you know, I have a brand, right? I am the Conjugate Capo, as I like to call myself. So, right off the bat, you know, recognizing this is a mass building program, that raises the question about the deadlift, because the deadlift is obviously a strongman's bread and butter. However, for a sufficiently strong strongman athlete, the deadlift generates a ton of fatigue. So it's one of those things where I don't necessarily think I want to use it as our hypertrophy anchor right now for the pull. So we're going to make the pull day a developmental day. And we'll have leg day be the max effort day, or intensive day, just like that. So then from here, you know, it's a matter of how does the weekly flow go. So for push day, this will probably be our intensive day. For upper intensive, then we'll have the other upper day be our developmental day, right? Just like that. So there we go. That kind of lines out our split, because, you know, I'm thinking like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or maybe Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Just depends on your schedule, but you get what I'm going for here, right? In general, I always tell people don't lift 3 days in a row. Don't take more than 3 days in a row off. So this kind of puts us in that nice happy medium. So then from here, we can start kind of slotting out our movements. So with pull day, obviously, we want to build the lats. We want to build the traps, rear delts, upper back, mid back, all that. Just back. It's back day, essentially. So actually, yeah, pull slash back are kind of the same thing. But I'll put pull plus back just to kind of give myself that note, right? So then we want to think about where we start. And I think the initial thing would be like, oh, let's throw a deadlift here. But I'm actually going to make the case, instead of the deadlift being movement 1, let's put that as number 2, right? So then what are we going to start our pull slash back day with? Tandang extensions. I honestly love this exercise. My athletes who are doing it love it. It has been getting a lot of prominence on strongman social media lately. You know, it's one of those things where one person posted and everyone does it. So when I talk about a Tandang extension, that is the Zercher triple extension. One thing I do that's a bit different than everyone else, though, is I generally have a pin of some sort or a band. I'm having my athletes aim for a target. So that's going to help build and carry over to our loading movements. It actually helps the log clean as well. It's helping my athletes with their sandbag throws. So Tandang extensions, awesome. They're also really going to load the upper and mid back as well as the traps. So I think that's a good first movement. And then that primes the CNS before we go into the deadlift. Now the deadlift itself here, I think what I want to do is use a disadvantaged variation. Reason being, again, for a sufficiently strong athlete, if you're someone who's doing reps at or above double body weight, 2.5 body weight, you're generating too much fatigue, and that's going to negatively impact your ability to handle the whole training cycle, right? So for the deadlift, I'm thinking snatch grip. I think a snatch grip, and you know what, let's make it beltless. Snatch grip, beltless deadlift, or maybe a snatch grip plus deficit, either one. I'll have to play with that. What that's going to do is force you to use lighter loads. It also puts you in a mechanically disadvantaged position through a longer range of motion, so ostensibly, it'll be a little bit better for muscle building, right? So that's what we're going to do there. I like that. I think that makes sense. Now, next up, we got to have a bent over row. I think, bent over row is just mandatory for strongman. It's one of those movements that builds so many different things, right? A deficit pendlay row is one of the best builders for your loading and picking movements. It's going to help build your upper back, your midline, all of that good stuff. And actually, you know what we're going to do? I think this is worth doing. We're actually going to put the bent over row above the deadlift. So the deadlift will be third in the workout. Can I do that? I mean, there's a way to do that, right? I think it's this. Yeah, cool. There we go. So that's what we'll do. So then from there, what we do is we got to think, all right, we've gotten, several exercises in here. It's looking pretty good so far, in my opinion. This already looks like a pretty fun day, but it's pull day. So we need to get a vertical pull in here. So let's go chins or pull downs. There we go. Then, obviously, it's pull day. We need some biceps in here. So as far as the biceps go, right, for a strongman athlete, obviously bicep injuries are very common. So let's do an easy curl. And I think some pauses in there would be really good. And then we'll top off one more bicep exercise, because why not? Let's go with something with a nice stretch on it. Let's go incline curl. There we go. All right. There we go. That looks pretty fun. So that is day one, and then I'm just going to put slot core right there, and I'll figure it out from there. So let's talk about our intensive day. So this is our max effort day. So something I want to do here is I want to think about a pressing variation that's good for building mass, but also help us express our strength and not lose it, right? And I think what I want to do here is do kind of a bi-weekly approach, where maybe we max out 1 week and then we do volume or some sort of control mechanism variation of the movement on B weeks. So then, even though you're using the same lift for, 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how I line this out, what'll happen as a result of that is it still creates novel stimulus. Because like I said before, I don't like changing the max effort lift every single week. I think especially in a hypertrophy-oriented program, that just doesn't make sense. So, all right, we're push pressing, or we're doing some sort of overhead work here. We want to pick something that's not too challenging on the bod. You know what? Let's go BTN press. I think the BTN press is an awesome developer of movements, and we might do something where we alternate strict and push weeks. There we go. I like that. So that should be really fun. And the reason why we can do that, right, where we alternate the two, is that's going to make it so we get variation in load from week to week. And then also we don't lose our leg drive capabilities. I think it's important for strongman athletes to have some sort of leg drive in their training year round, just to make sure we don't lose that all too important skill. So let's do that. All right, then we've got a nice vertical press there. Now we need some sort of horizontal press here. And there's a few different options naturally. I'm just going to go with, let's go with close grip axle bench. There we go. I like close grip axle bench. That's a good one. And then we could even do DB incline here. And then from there, we're just sprinkling in more delt, chest, and tricep type work because it is a push day, right? So we'll do press downs here. And then let's do skull crushers here. And then we need some delt work. So let's go, lateral or Lou raises here. Because remember too, with any of my programs, I always kind of give you a menu of different exercises you can rotate between, as well as different progression options. So this, again, is just kind of blocking it out. Now, I think we can slot in, let's put one more movement in there. Let's go incline flies. Big upper chest is never a bad thing for the strongman athlete, right? And if you think about kind of the coveted look of the strongman athlete, it's sort of like a bowl, you know? They got the thick traps, they got the big upper chest, triceps, delts. There's just a thickness, a certain 3D look to that athlete in question. Now let's move into our leg day here. And I think we're going to steal the same thing we're doing for the squat, that we're doing with the press. So we're going to alternate between pause squats and high rep weeks. That way, again, you know, the high rep work is going to be really good for helping build mass in the legs, strength, conditioning, all that good stuff. And especially for a strongman athlete, we don't really need to worry about our squat 1 rep max. You know, in general, we want to build more in the, I'd say 5 to 8 range, maybe higher. But then also doing pause squats, those are really good for just building general leg strength, positional strength. I mean, this has a ton of carryover. So we'll say alternating there, probably like an SSB squat is what I'm going to default to. And then before we squat, we're going to hit some hamstrings. I like doing hamstring work before squats. It feels really good on my knees. So that just creates a nice, simple option right there, yeah? Now, we are going to have some event adjacent work there. So I think after we squat, let's throw in a sled drag, because this kind of also acts as a proxy for the knee extension, which is a great quad development exercise, right? So then we have our sled drag. So, you know, already got hamstring curls, we got squats, we got quote unquote knee extensions. Then we'll want to continue on. And if we look at other muscle groups, other areas that the strongman athlete should probably give a bit more love to, that's going to be their adductors. So we're actually going to move that down. Let's go adductor machine right here. Yeah, I think that's good. And then we're just going to throw in some core work because, frankly, I think we need more core work. Alrighty. So then what else can we put in here? Oh, I know. Let's move that there. Put in some calf work because, well, you know, none of us really train our calves. And I think having strong calves is not a bad idea because that also does help us with that final bit of extension on the load, right? So we'll put that there. Now we have one more slot available. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to put in there. I think I'm going to leave that blank for now, just because this is already a pretty hard day. Because even though like we don't have as many exercises as other days, right? Your hamstring curls, you got a big squat workout. Got your calf work, you're gonna do adductor work, sled drag, and then core work after that. So this is a pretty tough day. And what's nice here is we have event adjacent work, right? The Tandang extension is incredible for improving loading. This is good for moving work right here. So all around, a great option. Then last but certainly not least is our upper developmental day. And I think what I wanna do here is we wanna anchor this to, you know, a key press, right? And I'm of two minds here. On the one hand, the strict log press is, you know, very popular in strongman for a good reason. It is one of those movements that just being strong on strict log means you're just going to be strong, right? It's incredibly static focused, which for the strongman athlete who is in a mass gaining phase comes in very handy there. So we're going to put that in as our primary. Go strict log, or, you know, I'm going to give you an alternative here, 60-degree two board, aka Dawn press, which, you know, if you follow Shane Reeks with MST, he's talked about this variation quite a bit, and he is the log Dawn. That's why I call it the Dawn press. And you'll notice that I put this second, and the reason why is I want to open the day up with some form of push press. Again, I just think it's good for strongman athletes to get frequent exposure to their leg drive, right? Because if we are doing an A-B rotation on day number 1, what that means is we wouldn't necessarily have push press exposure every week unless we guaranteed it was always showing up here on the developmental day. So here, I think something like a paused dip push press slots in really nicely. And what that's going to do is just help refine the rack position, help us get more comfortable, especially as you gain mass, you'll be able to better control your position on the movement. So we'll do that. I like that. That's good. And then from there, you know, let's see here. Yeah. Because the pause dip push press, we're not going to be going too crazy with that. This is kind of a volume focused day, right? Ooh, strict Viking press. We're going to put that in here. No, we're not. Let's go with, I like dumbbell bench. Dumbbell bench or dips for mass building purposes, right? Again, we just want to think, what can we do to help grow a little bit? And you know what? Let's move this down. I want to start with something a little more fun here. Yeah. We're going to do a superset to start this day. Lat pull downs, superset with dumbbell cleans. Really good upper back superset there. It could be chin ups and band pull aparts, anything like that. I think what that's going to do is just help build, you know, a good, thick, strong upper back, right? We're working the delts quite a bit here. And then from there, we just need to get some more isolation slotted in. So I'm just going to put triceps for now. And then triceps plus biceps. Yeah, because, you know, this is me just spitballing, right? We're getting an idea here. So, I mean, really, if we look at it, it's more like we don't have a true bro split anymore, but that's okay. You know, we have a pull and back focus day. We've got a push focus day, a leg focus day, and then like an upper, you know, kind of, I guess, shoulders and arms would be how you want to look at that. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, you know, now this day's kind of crowded. I'm trying to think here. We'll put in a one arm row on leg day. So I guess, yeah, so much for the bro split. That didn't work out long term. You know, it was an idea, but each day does have a certain more, shall we say, emphasis, right? So I think this works out in that regard. And then actually, I'm going to go ahead and make another change here. Let's have this be the day that we do the lat pull down and clean dumbbell clean superset. Let's drop it in there. And then here, we're going to superset some form of chest supported row plus Kelso shrugs. There we go. Yeah, because it's fun, as you know, back just, it requires so much volume. I think this just makes more sense with a strongman athlete. A little bit of back work throughout the entire week. So yeah, there we go. That looks pretty good. I think that looks like a fun week of training, you know. It's got a bunch of my favorite exercises. I think it's going to be one that an athlete would have a lot of fun with, right? You know, you got to think of it as your upper developmental day is very much a volume focused day. And then, you know, your pull day, right? You're going to hit some kind of an explosive athletic development movement, get some rows, you had a good pump, hit some deads, and then just really smack around the biceps, push day. Yeah, I think that's just fun. I think this just looks pretty gosh darn fun overall. It's like, I almost want to do a bunch of strict Viking press. I do love strict Viking press. So I don't know. I'll have to play with this, but I think that is going to be sort of the lay of the land so far for what Conjugate Kaiju 3 is looking like. And again, it's always subject to change. This entire split could be thrown out the window tomorrow. And also, especially with these programs, right? The real magic isn't necessarily just in the split itself. It comes from the various progressions. That's what's going to make it more fun. And so I'll tinker with that. And you know, as far as the release date for Conjugate Kaiju 3, probably honest, it's probably going to be September, maybe October. Just really depends on how things shake out over the next few weeks for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I'm going to wrap up here because it doesn't look like I have any questions in the chat. So I hope you folks have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.